What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Mewzings podcast studio. I am excited to be joined tonight by Mr. 22 of 22 Comics. How you doing today, sir?
I'm well, man. I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. And the age-old question of the night is going to be, did you hear the intro music? It seems to be up for debate whether people can hear it or not.
I did. I did
Oh
hear
my
it.
goodness. I don't know what's going on. Here I'm jumping through hoops over here trying to mix it out and everything else, and now it's working. All right, maybe my spiel will not be telling people you won't be able to hear it, because you're the second person in a row that's been able to hear it.
The stars have aligned.
I'm telling you, it could be because you got a nice setup though. I don't know. It might
Maybe.
be. You rocking that Shure mic. You probably got a fancy Mac or something, you know.
I do got a Mac, yeah.
See? Maybe that's it.
Maybe so. Maybe so. That's funny.
Well, I reached out to all my past guests and I was asking for recommendations of who I should have on, and Big Brandon of Mon Comics threw your name out there, so our boy Brandon gave you a good word, and I had to reach out, and here we are.
I love that guy. He's freaking fantastic. Shout out Brandon Mon Comics. If you're listening, go check him out on YouTube. He's freaking fantastic. You'll not regret it at all. He's been one of my biggest supporters, and I can't help but support him. Freaking, like I said, I love him. He's a great guy.
Such a good guy, and this whole community that I've gotten involved with through, being involved with the podcast and everything, and having all these different individuals on, like, really hit it off with Brandon and Colossus Collector and all those guys. Like, you guys all run in that circle, so I always tell people, I know if I have one of you guys on, we're gonna have a good show, and we're gonna have a lot in common.
Yeah, no, Ryan's freaking fantastic too. All those guys. And there's so many, like, this is going to come off bad, but there's so many cliques in the comic book YouTube community or whatever.
Yes.
I'm such a, like, lone wolf. Like, I just kind of nomad to whoever at whatever point in time. I'm not really, like...
Yeah, I got the sense that there's a little bit of that, but, it's like that in any, like, niche thing, like a specialized area, like that exists in my world, in the Brazilian jiu-jitsu world. It exists. It exists everywhere, but I think for the most part you find your group and you got more good than bad, in my experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's hardly anybody that I would consider, like, bad.
Yeah.
In the people that I've dealt with anyways. I think there's one person that I've, like, I take that back. There's like two people that I'm like, yeah.
Right.
But, like, you just do like you would normally, and you either keep distance or you just, exchange cordials and go on about your business. Like,
well,
it's all comics. Like,
once you do find your people, though, it makes it nice, and you know.
Oh yeah.
Whenever you connect with them, it's gonna be like you were just talking yesterday, and you're gonna have a good time. So
yeah.
I wanted to make sure to have you on, and I want to learn more about you, man. I want to learn how you got into comics, how long you've been into comics, how you got into doing your podcast, all that good stuff. So that's kind of the territory I'm looking to cover tonight. So how did you get into comics, and how long ago did you start collecting?
So I would say like most everybody or whatever, I had some comics as a kid, but I wasn't like a collector as a kid. I think I enjoyed the cards more than anything else.
You're like probably the fifth or sixth person to tell me that.
It's probably got to do with the age.
Yeah, I think so.
And I could readily get cards a lot of places that I was at, but comic books were not necessarily as readily available.
Yeah.
So, but like the 90s, the X-Men cartoons was out, the Batman the Animated Series was out, 90s Spider-Man, like there was so much like cartoon-wise that was like going on that all me and my friends were watching and talking about and whatnot like that, like I said, the cards were just easily accessible, and then we could take them to school and we could trade them and stuff like that. We wouldn't get in hardly any trouble trading those around.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas like if we had like books... Like, I could see us getting in troubles with books.
Yeah, for sure. So did you find Oh, go ahead. I won't cut you off. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, like my son, like he'll get in trouble if he takes like his Pokemon cards to school
For
to trade.
sure.
I'm like I get it, like if it's a distraction or something like that, but like let him do something before school, let him do something at lunch, let him do something at recess. Like, come on,
Totally.
let them have their own ecosystem. Quit janking on that chain so much.
Now, did you find that since you said that, I'm guessing the cards was like your gateway into comics, and were you finding interest in specific characters through those, and then kind of looking to go out and find the books that those characters were in?
So once I got to that age where we most do, and it's like you just kind of fall off. You know what I mean? Like when I was a kid, it was X-Men stuff. Like that's what I was all about because that's what I was watching. That's what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So then I fell off, and then as I became an adult, I was in like freaking. I'd always been into Batman, so I was watching the Christian Bale Batman movies as those were coming out, and then Iron Man came out, and that was fan freaking tastic.
Oh, man.
I loved it, and
Yeah.
I never like what Iron Man did for me. Like what spoke to me with Iron Man is like I'm a car guy. And at the time, I was going to school to I had ambitions of wanting to be an engineer.
Okay.
And I was like, this guy right here freaking knows me.
He's speaking your language, yeah.
Right. And so, like, I got tired of waiting for the movies to come out. And I was like, I had comics as a kid. Like, I was like late 20s, early 30s or something like that. And I was like, I'll just go to the comic book store. I'll look for Batman and I'll look for, Iron Man, and I'll just pick it up and I'll see if I like it, if I want to start reading it again or whatever the case is.
Right.
So that's what I did. I started out with New 52 had just come out. So I was picking up like the Dark Knight and the Batman run, which was the Court of Owls stuff.
Oh yeah, Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got the couple of the different artist edition of that over there.
Nice.
There was all just the pencils or just the inks. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic!
Love that
fantastic.
stuff.
I'd love to have something like that and get Greg to sign it. That'd be
for sure.
insane.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah, that was such a good book.
But yeah, it was out of being tired of waiting for these comic book movies to come out, because like before that you had the Spider-Mans, and I'd already gone through all those. You had the Fantastic Four movies that had come out. Like there were several other comic book stuff that was like building up, but it wasn't like MCU like yet.
Not on that level. Yeah, you had the X-Men movies and everything, and Spider-Man. Yeah.
And so like those reeled me back in, but like getting tired of waiting for something cool like that, I was like, all right, let's get back into comics.
Fill in the gaps with the comics.
Yeah.
I'm going to sidetrack you a little bit because you said you're into cars. What kind of cars are you into?
I am a Mopar guy.
Oh,
so,
my brother. You're a Mopar brother.
Yes.
I'm a
Mopar guy.
I have a 2015 Hemi Scat Pack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, my dream is to get a any Challenger Demon. Like,
yeah,
or
so
Hellcat.
amazing. Yes.
And I know the Demon's higher than the Hellcat, but I'd be satisfied with the Hellcat.
Yeah.
So like that's where I'm at. Like that's my dream right there, is getting one of those. But my like project, like daily, like what I'm on right now is I have a 2006 Chrysler 300 with the 5.7 Hemi in it.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's what my folks have. Nice.
Oh man, it's fantastic.
See, I got it from my folks. I got the Mopar bug from my folks. Yeah, they had a 74 Challenger when I was growing up that we used to take to the racetrack and go cruising and all of that stuff. So it's in my blood from way back.
Yes, that's fantastic. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I've always loved the 300 for whatever reason. I don't know what it was. And then
I've always liked them. Yeah, they're cool.
I was a Chevy guy growing up, and I had a Hummer H3, and it gave me so many problems that I was like, I'm done with Chevy. I'm done with it. And I went over just full straight Mopar for me.
That H3 in particular, you're not the first person that's told me that that they had issues. I have a friend who had a ton of issues with his too, so I understand. Yeah, it's challenging. The Mopar, it's calling you back, man. It said no Chevy. You got to stick with your Mopars. All right. So I have that side tangent. That's cool that we got that in common too.
Yes, absolutely.
So back to the comics. So you're getting in and you're trying to fill in the gaps, while you're waiting for the next big movie or whatever to come out. And you said you started with, kind of Batman and Spider-Man, that kind of stuff. And where did it branch out? Because I know it's like a snowball. Like I just got it. I got back into collecting probably a couple years ago now, and it's just like, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get any graded books. I'm not gonna get slabs. And then I got my first slab, and then however many slabs later now, it's a slippery slope.
Right. So I got back in. I started getting the Iron Man books and trying to catch up on.
Oh, that's right.
Volume.
You said Iron Man, not Spider-Man. That's right.
Oh yeah.
You talked about the Spider-Man movies. Yeah, you talked about the Spider-Man movies. Yeah.
And I was picking up Batman: The Dark Knight on the regular, and for whatever reason I chose that over the Batman. I don't know why, but that was a really bad move on my part because I wound up having to spend more money getting that second volume of Batman with the Court of Owls and all that.
Right.
But yeah, so there was that. I wound up meeting a guy in Books A Million one day, which is a local book chain store.
Okay.
Here in Alabama. And it's branched out more than Alabama, I believe, but its main hub is here in Alabama. And he was talking to me about Civil War, and it was really interesting to me. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll check into that. And so then I started going to a place called Second and Charles, and they had a bunch of the Civil War stuff for $1.
Oh, nice.
So I just started grabbing up that Civil War stuff, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll get this whole run. I'll read it and see what it's all about. And so then I started seeing other things and other characters that I may be interested in that I was like, oh, I'll check those out. So they had the Punisher, and they had just all these other things, X-Men. I'm trying to remember what else, that was so many years. That was over 10 years ago.
Yeah, they had everybody in there, man. Civil War was crazy because I know when they did the movie, everybody was like, oh, this is nothing like the comic. All these characters, they had so many more characters in the comic. And yeah, their budget would be insane if they tried to have that many characters. Although I did hear they're supposed to have I heard over 60 or more characters in the new Doomsday movie or something. Secret Wars.
Yeah.
That's going to be nuts if they can pull that off.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I just hope they don't sit there and so many people got hyped up over Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness because of the name.
Right.
And it's y'all need to set y'all's expectations to something reasonable and go in hoping you get your socks knocked off. But in reality, just kind of be, reasonable.
That's the thing, man. People get carried away because as fans, and especially being people that are fans of the comics, we know all this source material they can pull all these cool things from. So we're oh, if they do this, and then we get this idea of what we want the movie to be, when in reality, they have certain limitations in place. But I'll tell you, I was pretty excited with the whole John Krasinski, Reed Richards, and all of that cameo, and the Professor X. I was like, all right, this is cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I love seeing that. Loved it. Yeah. I love that they brought Haley Atwell in to be Captain Carter. I was
so cool.
That's a new character, and you brought her in. That's super awesome. You made What If at least season 1, anyways. You made season 1 matter. That's cool.
Yeah, season 3 was amazing. Did you watch that?
I just finished season 3 today, and my opinion my opinion differs than yours.
It's all good, man. It's all good. That's what makes this fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought the last 2 episodes I really enjoyed the most, but
I liked the two prior to the last two, where you
Okay.
had Shang-Chi and Hawkeye. I really enjoyed that episode,
That was cool, yeah.
and I enjoyed the Riri episode.
Yeah,
I
that
thought
was
that was a
really
good
cool.
one.
Yeah, I hope they I hope they're able to pull that show off when they do the
Riri?
live action. Yeah, they're supposed to
Oh,
do the
yes.
Ironheart show. It's been kind of keeps getting delayed. It seems like and everything. And it's such a cool character if they could pull that off in live action, as far as her own show or movie or whatever they're gonna do with her. I think that could be really awesome.
Yeah, like it's confirmed a TV show will be out this year.
Cool.
So,
I know they've been
so
talking about it for a long time because I think it was like San Diego Comic Con like 3 years ago or something. They made that
right.
announcement. You know, I've been waiting and waiting.
Yeah, it's confirmed for this year. I can't remember what month, but I want to say it's like their second to the last TV show or something like that, like
Okay.
MCU style, not cartoon, but like
Yeah.
because they have like 3 cartoons coming out and then 3 MCU style TV shows, I believe, coming out. And it's the one in the middle. So it's going to be after Daredevil Born Again.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I'm here for all of it.
right?
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Daredevil.
I'm cautiously whelmed.
Yeah. I usually go in with a pretty low expectation, and it's served me pretty well. So
Yeah.
certain things it's easy to get attached and really have a high expectation for, because like for me that first Netflix Daredevil was pretty insane.
Man.
So now this Born Again, I'm like, oh man, I hope they do it right. And from what I'm hearing, they did a ton of reshoots and things, and my buddy Ron Garney, you know, he created that Muse character for the comic.
Cool.
Yeah, so he when they did that run on the comic, he created Muse, and that's his original creation. And he told me when he got to go to the set for Born Again, when he saw that in live, like actually saw the guy in the outfit, and it looked like just like they had pulled it out of his brain and brought it into reality. He said it was surreal. He said it looked so good.
That's freaking awesome. And the fact that like he got to go and see it and stuff like that, I'm super excited about that. I love
Yeah.
when creators get to go and see their work come to life, like Rob
Yeah.
Liefeld and Deadpool. Stuff like that is fantastic.
It is.
I'm glad they've kind of kept, like, it's come out in like leaks and stuff that we're getting news, but I've yet to see a set photo leak of that character.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
think there
really
was
cool as well.
I think in that little, I think they did like a 2025 teaser little trailer,
Yes.
and I think there was like a quick flash of him. You could see like the bleeding eyes and stuff.
Oh, I'm about to go look.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. So, yeah, but hey, we got to take Ron's word for it. He said it looks amazing. So, if it looks anything on film like what it looked like to him in real life, it's going to be pretty dang cool.
I was gonna say, if the creator's happy with it, hey, good on you. Like
And
that's the standard for me,
That's tough to pull off.
right?
especially
Yeah.
especially a brilliant artist like Ron. Like I know he has a very high standard, so for him to tell me, James, it was like really great, I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be pretty dang cool. And I know Liefeld was saying he actually knows the dude that they brought in on a lot of the reshoots, because I guess it was ending up being kind of like an Ally McBeal style comedy jokey joke thing, and then they're like, no, we don't like the way it's going. And basically the stunt coordinator guy, I think from the Netflix Daredevil, came in and redid a bunch of it and directed a bunch of it. So hopefully we get some
I heard it was gonna be like
badass
court
stuff.
proceedings.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a court drama / comedy.
No, no.
But hearing that the reshoots were basically retailoring it to have it be darker and very R-rated and more along the line of the Netflix series made me very happy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Because that hallway fight scene, that one shot, the continuous shot from the first Daredevil Netflix first season, that was insane.
Well, and then season 2's The Punisher's his walk, that scene was freaking awesome. I think it was season 2 as well, where there's like they did another hallway type scene, but they had like stairs for Daredevil and stuff.
Yes,
Like
yes.
that was freaking cool. Like, yeah, no, I'm glad they've got that choreographer.
Yeah,
That's
that's
freaking awesome.
very good news. So going back to comics a little bit, it sounds like a lot of what's driven, or at least at the point when you got back into collecting, what was driving you was seeking out characters and finding cool characters that you were discovering and enjoying. And that kind of led the direction. How much of the artwork and how it looked influenced what you were picking up? Were you somebody that was really like looking at different artists and following different arts? I'm guessing because you mentioned I'm gonna guess the time period you came in, you were probably seeing like Jim Lee stuff back in the day, like earlier on with X-Men and stuff like that, and Capullo on the Batman and all of that. So what kind of stuff were you gravitating towards in the art department?
So when I came back in, like, yes, it would have been Capullo on Batman, but I don't think he did the Dark Knight series. I
No,
want to say like David Fitch
that was
did
Finch. Yeah, that was David
Yeah.
Finch.
And his artwork is fantastic.
Yeah, I love
I
it.
really enjoy his artwork as well. Artwork for me plays a huge role. Like if I'm reading something and the artwork is like amazing, but the story is like par to subpar, I'll stick with it just because I love the artwork. And then, but like if the artwork is trash and like the story is part of something, like I'll get through it if I own it,
Yeah,
but I'm gonna hate every single minute of it.
I'm right there with you, man. Yeah, and for me, as somebody that is drawn, been into drawing and been into art for a long time, like the art is such a huge part of it for me. And it's like you said, I don't think it works in reverse, right? Like you can have amazing art and a not so great story, but an amazing story with horrible art, it's hard to trudge through.
Yes, absolutely. Like I read something. It was so I read. First off, I read Rorschach, and it was written by Tom King, which a lot
Yeah.
of people know my love-hate relationship with Tom King. And the art in it was freaking, like, it was really good art, but that story for me sucked so bad. But I already own the entire series, so I
So
was
you
like,
gotta see it through, man.
I'm gonna finish this, but I hate every minute of it.
Yeah.
And then I bought this series called Fear Case. It was a 4-issue series. It
Okay.
was written by Matt Kindt, and I'd heard really good things about him as a writer and stuff. It had an intriguing like synopsis. I read it, and I didn't like most of it, and the artwork was atrocious. And I was like, I hate every minute of this, but I already own it, so I'll get through it.
Have you ever picked up Berserker?
I've not read Berserker at all.
So same writer, but Ron Garney's on the art, and
Okay.
I think you'll probably enjoy it.
So this is
it's
not the Berserker that's the Keanu Reeves. This is the other one.
No, this is the Keanu Reeves one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Ron's the one that's done pretty much the majority of all the art on that book. They did a one that came out a little bit after he did the first run that was drawn by somebody else, but he just did the most recent, or he's on the most recent run of it. And same writer, but the story, I think Keanu has some input on the story too. So it's pretty cool concept, and the art's phenomenal because Ron is truly one of the modern masters. Can't give Ron enough shout outs on here today.
I would give it a shot because I've heard good things about it. I believe it's Matt Kindt that's wrote Mind Management.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
That the synopsis to that one, if I can't remember it, but I remember when I did hear it, it sounded interesting. I think it was a murder mystery that was underwater or something like that.
Oh,
Or maybe that
okay.
was Department H.
Yeah.
It might have been Department H that he wrote that, but it was one of those, and I'd give that one a shot. Like I don't know. It takes a lot, I feel like, for me to scratch a writer off.
Yeah. Well, it's
Because
like
like
Tom King, like you were saying, like he's done great stuff, but then he's done that one. You were kind of like, eh. 'Cause I know Cliff was saying the Wonder Woman stuff. There's been some amazing stuff on Tom King's Wonder Woman that he's absolutely loved, and but then there's been other stuff where he's like, eh, I'm not too sure about this.
there's been nothing that Tom King has wrote that I've like been in love with. Nothing.
So you're totally. He's got to earn his earn his way with Mr. 22.
We're slated to read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and I know that's wrote by him. Like I'm gonna go in it open minded.
Have you tried
like
Have you tried the Wonder Woman stuff? Have you read
I
that?
have not tried the Wonder Woman.
Okay.
I've read Mr. Miracle.
So you got to
I've
read
read
the Wonder Woman. You got to read the Wonder Woman, and then
Okay.
give Big Cliff a hard time. Give Cliff on Comics a hard time if you don't like it. Okay.
Cliff Cliff already gets such a hard time for me sometimes. Anyways, we have a nice banter session with each other.
And I'll just put this out there. It might get me some hate, but I have not read any Tom King books, so I can't speak on them.
In my opinion, you're not missing anything, but
Yeah,
that's just me. He's very very slow burn.
gotcha.
Very slow burn.
So I had Mike Barron on today, the creator or co-creator of Nexus and the Badger and all of that, and
Yeah.
he was talking about we had a big discussion about that, how like comics should be exciting and not like 15 pages of 20 panels a page of talking heads and dialogue and stuff. Yeah.
You gotta give me something to come back for. Like you gotta give me a reason to keep coming back. Like if it's just art alone, like I love it. I love freaking great art, but like it's gonna make me hate you as a writer. Like that's just for me. That's just how it is.
So who are some standouts for you in that art field? Like I mean, you don't have to put them in order, but if you were going to do like a top 5 for you that you really gravitate towards, who are some people that you just never get tired of looking at their stuff?
Gabriel Delato is the top of that list.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely positively love his work.
His Batman stuff, and he's done some crazy stuff.
Yes, anything he does, like he's made like Sonic the Hedgehog covers that I'm like, I need that cover. I don't care that it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Like he did it. There's a Scrooge McDuck he did, and I'm like, I don't care. I want it. I want it because it's freaking Delato. Like
That's awesome.
Love his work. Esad Ribic is another one. I love his artwork.
Oh yeah.
His work with Jason Aaron on the Thor, the God of Thunder. It's like that story is one of my favorites of all time. Artwork is out of the park. Story writing from Alabama boy Jason Aaron, it's out of the park. Like I just all cylinders for me. All cylinders.
Yeah, so that's 2. Give me 3 more.
We got, let's see, I said Esad Ribic. I said Gabriel Delato. There's I always forget his name. Oh, what is it? We'll throw out there. I love David Nakayama.
Yeah.
I love his clean line work. I love just how clean his stuff looks.
I just got that. I backed the Kickstarter for that Marvel art of David Nakayama, and it's phenomenal. It's just been pouring over that thing.
Yeah, I love his covers. I love his, and then his personality on IG makes me love him even more as well, because he just you tag him and stuff, and you give him praise. He just comes in and he's like, thank you so much. He's so humble about it.
That's so
I'm
cool.
looking through my phone right now because I have like my list of people, and so I'm like,
yeah, man, I put you on the spot.
No, well, there's one that I keep on forgetting. This one right here, Simone Bianchi. Bianchi is another one of mine that like I freaking love his work.
You want to talk like masterful art? Like he's one that other artists, other like god level tier artists look at and are like, how is he doing that?
Yeah.
Like I've talked to several, and they're like, they go, James, when I look at somebody's work and I go, I don't understand how they did it, like that's the kind of people that I look at and
Yeah.
admire. And he's come up on that list more than once.
And I love watching him on IG as well. Like you can see him several times like on his page and he's like
Yeah.
sitting there just doing his work and I'm just like, golly, I wish I could come close to that.
Uh,
Just it's
Phenomenal.
fantastic. Fantastic stuff. Um
Round it
who
out.
else?
Gotta
Do
give
what
me
now?
a fifth. Gotta give me a fifth. You gotta round out the
Gotta give
list.
you a fifth one. I think this is a fan favorite as well, and I love his interiors. And that's we've already talked about him once before. Greg Capullo. Greg Capullo is
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
fantastic. Love his interiors. I love how he is consistent, and it just looks like he does it with ease.
Yeah.
So
So going back to Greg then, since we're talking about Greg, what are your thoughts on this Wolverine book that he's on? I know it's been getting mixed reviews and everything. How have you enjoyed it? Like obviously his art's great on it. Like he's
yeah.
consistently phenomenal in the art department. Have you been
So
reading that one?
I don't believe I have. Is that just the new? Is that the new Wolverine volume? The new Wolverine title?
Yeah, it's like I believe it's a mini series that he's
Okay, is
on.
that the
It's
Wolverine
called
Revenge?
yeah, Wolverine Revenge. Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
think
I have
there's
not
like
touched that.
I think you got about I think four issues of it have come out so far.
Got you. Yeah,
And
I
then
haven't touched
they're
that.
doing something that's really irking me with these danged these danged red band. They're doing these red band gimmick, where
Yeah.
it's got pages or panels that don't show up in the regular one.
Right.
And I get the majority of my stuff on Comixology digitally just because as far as new books, I don't have the story. All my storage space is allocated to older stuff I pick up in my collection.
Okay.
As far as new books, I get it digitally, so I'm out of room in here and my basement's crazy. So they don't sell the red band version on Comixology. They only have the standard.
Oh
and then
wow.
and then all the shops sell out of it right away. It's gone. You
Yeah.
can't. So I found online, some people did like a side by side and showed what's in the red band one art wise that's different than in the regular one. It'll be like maybe a page or a couple of
Yeah.
panels are different. So I not like you're missing out a whole lot if you don't get the red band one, but there is some pretty graphic, cool Capullo, very gory art that's missing from the regular versions.
Which is fitting because dude came from Spawn. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah. There's a shot in the red band one. I think it's on the first issue of like Wolverine regenerating himself essentially from nothing, and it's like an anatomy, like muscle, sinew, and guts, and yeah,
oh
yeah,
cool.
it's really cool.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to check that one out. I would be interested to know your opinion on the story.
Okay.
It's kind of
Yeah.
one of
See, I'm not
those
a
where,
big Wolverine guy.
yeah.
I
So if
was when I
you
was a kid, but like I didn't understand his power set though either. I didn't
right,
like. I just went off of like the X-Men cartoon, so like they never really dealt with the fact that like he could heal himself. It was just
yeah,
like, who's this dude with the attitude, and the knives that come
super
out of his
angry.
hands? That's
Yeah,
freaking awesome.
why is he so angry all the time? Maybe it's because he's short.
Yeah, right.
So we talked about kind of favorite artists a little bit. As far as characters, now I already know Wolverine is not one of your favorites.
Yeah,
And you talked about Batman and stuff and Iron Man, so I'm assuming those are kind of up there on your favorite character list. Who do you
yeah.
got on there as far as what you're currently focusing on in your collection? What stuff do you gravitate towards character wise these days?
Um. So right, like, are we talking like new pools, or are we talking like just overall collecting? Like,
Anything, man, anything.
right now, one of my biggest goals is I want every issue of Iron Man, all volumes. So like you're saying, like Iron Man, that's my biggest deal. I'm like 22 issues away from having all of Volume 1,
That's amazing.
and yeah, it's like a
I was gonna
332
say that's
run.
no, just for the listeners, that is not an easy feat to achieve.
And I have every volume after Volume 1, and then I have like several of the miniseries. I don't have all of them completed, but I have several of the miniseries completed. So I've got that. I've got several. I think I got about 20 Tales of Suspense books, and he came in at 39. It's his first appearance, and then issue 99 is where they stopped. So I'll finish that Tales of Suspense out. Once I get done with Volume 1, that's what I'll start working on there. Doctor Strange, that's one that I've wanted to collect. That's one
Nice.
that I think is once Iron Man is done,
That'll
that
be
I'll
what you
probably
pick up.
start moving towards there. Right now, though, I'm collecting. I have his last volume that was out that was done by Jed McKay. Fantastic. Like one of my favorite reads ever. Like that.
Okay.
It was so good. So good. The entire thing was just fantastic. I loved it. I want a hardback version of just that entire. It's like 20 issues, and I want a hardback of it. It's
Nice.
fantastic. I'm collecting his Strange run right now, where Clea took over after the death of Doctor Strange. So I'm getting
Oh,
that Death of
okay.
Doctor Strange run too, which is like 5 issues, and then the Strange run is like 10, I think. Jed McKay did a run on Moon Knight that what I've read has been really good, so I started picking those up. And a lot of this stuff that I'm picking up for $1.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's not like I'm, you know what I mean. Like like I'm not
Yeah.
sitting there doing $4 and $5 books.
No,
I did pick up.
you're a completist though. You're wanting to get this stuff so you have these runs and everything too, right? That's
Yes,
that's part
yeah,
of it. Doesn't matter if it's a
yes,
valuable book. You're trying to you fill out those runs.
right. So we got Iron Man, we got Doctor Strange. Um, who else? Daredevil. Daredevil's a favorite of mine. However, I haven't. I read Chip Zdarsky, one of the Chip Zdarsky volumes of Daredevil, and just the way it ended, I didn't like. It didn't grab me throughout, and then the way it ended, kind of like I was like meh, and so
Right.
I just I wound up selling that volume. But I do have the entire second volume of Daredevil that's got like Brian Michael Bendis work in there. It's got Kevin Smith work in there. There was somebody else that came in after Bendis, if I remember right. I can't think of his name. Um, and so yeah, I like the character of Daredevil. I like my heroes to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sensing the theme of everybody you've kind of talked about is like a regular person for the most part.
Yeah,
Bruce
I
Wayne, Tony
yeah,
Stark, with Matt Murdock, Matt Murdock's got enhanced senses and, elite
right,
level training and all of that. Basically has superpowers in the fact that he can see pretty much
right,
see even though he's blind, but
yeah.
yeah, so you like to have that risk versus them just being invulnerable and god level characters.
Right. Yeah, I like vulnerability and I like intelligence. Like those are my big that's what attracts me to certain characters.
Right.
So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that's one that has been with me since I was a kid. I love the Turtles. And I've loved the cartoon. I've loved the comics. Jason Aaron's run right now has been freaking awesome. Loving
Now,
it so far.
is that the follow up to the Ronin thing, or that's something different? The Jason Aaron stuff, something different.
Jason Aaron is the follow up to the volume previous to it, so it's like a
Okay,
soft reboot.
okay. So the
But it,
last Turtles thing I read was that first Ronin book. Yeah,
oh yeah, the last Ronin.
the last Ronin
Yeah,
series.
That's fantastic.
So that was really cool, and I know they came out with like another one of that, but I hadn't seen the Jason Aaron one you're talking about. I don't know that I've seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's on issue. I think I just read issue 5. It's a fantastic starting on point. So, like, if you can find, I know you talking about reading digitally.
Yeah.
Like, you can pick up issue 1, and you don't have to have read anything turtle wise.
I always like that when you can just onboard like that without having to know a bunch of back material and things.
Right.
Especially if you've been gone, been off of a series for a long time.
Now, they do mention and incorporate things that happened in the previous volume. However, it's not, I think it's just acknowledging that, like, that volume does matter, but you don't have to know it to keep going on from here.
Right.
And you may get in there and you may start reading it and be like, I have no idea. Like, you may start asking, why are the turtles not together? Like, what's the deal? You're asking the same question that every other reader right now is asking.
Right.
Because none of us know why the turtles are separated.
So that's how they get you. That's how they get you coming back every month.
But it's been, Jason Aaron has done really well on that. So, but I've been going after the first volume of the Turtles. I have a nice chunk of that. So that's one of my other characters runs that I like to collect. I'm looking. Let's see.
I'd be curious to know, are you somebody that hunts keys? You have certain things you're on the lookout for at all times, like major keys that you want to add to your collection?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always want... There's always something that, like...
Yeah.
I want. Like, last year, I wanted Lone Ranger #1.
Oh, cool.
That was one of my... It wasn't the first appearance of the Lone Ranger, but it was the first in that volume. So, like, his first, like, self-titled comic. So I wanted that. I didn't complete that. I didn't find it. They wound up like going up in price by $100, and I was like, what's going on?
Wow.
So I just can't get over the fact of like,
is there like a speculator market for Lone Ranger right now, or what?
It shouldn't be. Like, they're like, nobody cares about westerns. Like my biggest, if you want to get into Golden Age books, go look at westerns, because nobody gives anything about Golden Age. Like, nobody cares about westerns. None.
I love the Jack Kirby stuff on a lot of the old, like, Rawhide Kid and some of those old books, or Two Gun Kid and all of that. Like, he's got, he did art on a lot of those. It's like, I think it's like very underappreciated Jack Kirby stuff. And like you said, you can get them pretty cheap, even though they're old books, because nobody cares about the Western stuff, right?
Yeah. But there's an asterisk to that. The Westerns that people do care about are the Silver Age Ghost Rider.
Yes.
They care immensely about that little 7-issue series, especially #1. That joke, like, that's one of the ones I want, and it's like $300, $400 for a decent copy. Yeah. And then they did a reprint, I'm pretty positive, of that same series. But they changed him because this came out in like the Copper Bronze Age time period, and you had Johnny Blaze as Ghost Rider at that time,
right?
So he wasn't no longer the Ghost Rider anymore, but he was the Knight Rider, and those books go for a ridiculous amount of money, and I'm pretty positive they're just reprints of that Silver Age book.
Funny what people pick up as the thing that's like valuable and sought after when it comes to like niche, things like that, just like characters that you or I might not consider to be anything, and it's like, why are those books so dang expensive?
I think the Knight Rider is because they're like hard to come by. Like, I hardly ever see them just in the wild, so I think that's why on those. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why anybody cares anything about like, I've never seen anybody be like, I've got this Silver Age Ghost Rider book. Like, nobody. No, I think I'm the only one that shows those books. Like,
just in case, some of the listeners are not as educated on comics as you or I. He's not talking about the flaming skull head motorcycle
Right.
riding Ghost Rider. We're talking about a horse riding cowboy
Yep.
looking, ghost white outfit Ghost Rider.
It was something Carter Slade, I believe, is his name. And he's not even the first Ghost Rider. There's one from the Silver Age that has the same costume.
Yeah.
One from the Golden Age, I apologize, that has the same costume. However, that Carter Slade was in the original Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movie.
Oh,
He
really?
was he's the caretaker at the
Oh,
graveyard. And
that's
so when
right. I
they
remember
both
hearing there was
flame
some.
on,
Yes, that's right.
yeah.
There was
Yeah.
that
So like
Easter egg was in there. Yeah.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I always love stuff like that. They do that little homework and throw stuff in there for the fans.
Right. Yeah. So I love that scene. That's like my favorite scene in that Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider is when they
Yeah.
both like he is flaming on that horse and I'm like, that's freaking rad. I love
Yep.
that.
That's the kind of that's the kind of fan service we like.
Yes. Yes. Now
So
I collect so much stuff, man.
so
It's insane.
with collecting comes the need for funds for collecting. So I always
Oh
ask
yeah.
collectors, do you ever sell any of your stuff as a means to being able to facilitate some of these purchases of keys and things that you're looking for?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
110%. In fact, on my channel, I have a monthly like eBay hauls and sales report that I do where I go through and I'll talk to the viewer of like this is the book that sold, this is what it sold for, this is how much I'm paying in shipping for it to go out to whatever,
Yeah.
and this is the total of what I received. So I got that. I've got I do a yearly purge on my YouTube channel, and
Okay.
that's actually coming up. So this will be the second year that I do my purge. I go through and I find
Oh,
like all this stuff in my collection
I
that I'm
might I
just
might have to get on that.
yeah, come on,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Your
I just
your
go on there
purge
and I
can
sell
be
it.
your purge can be me accumulating more than I have room for.
That's fantastic.
Uh,
I actually think I got somebody joining me this year to sell, so we're
nice.
getting that together, and yeah,
My wife's always like, "What is this box?" Oh, it's just another comic picked up. Something I found on eBay the other day. Thankfully,
That's
she's
funny.
very supportive, so I'm very lucky in that regard. She got into comics and comic book movies, through being with me. It wasn't anything she was into before, and now we have a couple of Comic Cons locally that we go to every year, and she enjoys it every bit as much as me, so it's pretty cool.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
very lucky to have that support. It's not it's not a knockdown drag out fight whenever a new slab arrives or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Having the spouse on board is like that's such a blessing that a lot of people,
Definitely.
some people don't get. And I feel bad, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like my wife, she's not a comic book person. She'll watch the movies with me. She'll watch some of the TV shows
That's
with me.
good though. I mean,
Um,
tolerating it in some level of support is better than the it's me or the comics.
oh yeah,
Right?
absolutely, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
she's even bought me like books, like let's see, for wedding gifts, she got me a huge Iron Man book, and
Nice.
then last year I think it was like I don't know if it was a wedding gift or if it was a birthday gift, but she got me another huge Iron Man book. So like she doesn't just necessarily tolerate, she like actually
Yes.
supports it and stuff
That's
like that.
great, man.
So yeah.
That makes me happy to hear. So I wanted to ask you kind of what was the thing that got you inspired and motivated to start your YouTube channel, and when did you kick all that off? How long have you been working on that?
So I've been on YouTube. I'm going into my fourth year, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay. Did you start kind of during the pandemic?
No, my pandemic wasn't like everybody else's.
Okay.
So, like, while everybody else, like, for the majority, while a lot of people were sitting there, being able to stay home and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
my job was considered necessary or whatever.
You were in that group, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, there was no time off for me. There was no staying at home. There was none of
Right.
that, which I'm grateful for. Don't get me wrong, because, like, I got to keep a job. I got to keep a steady paycheck and stuff like that
Yeah.
and keep the ball rolling on that. However, like it is hard, like looking back and being like, it's seeing a lot of people who got to spend like days and stuff like that with their family, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Well, and
that
that's the
sucks.
reason I
Like,
ask too, because I know a lot of people like that was when they started collecting again and stuff.
yeah,
Was because they had that time and they were trying to look to things that were bringing them joy and they
yeah,
got nostalgic. And I know a lot of the guests I've had on, that's either when they started collecting again or when they started their podcast or YouTube channels. So I
yeah,
always make sure if you're in that time frame, I'm just going to make that assumption. So you had a little bit of a different,
yeah,
experience.
yeah. So I was enjoying a lot of the things that were coming out of the pandemic,
Right.
which got me thinking like, all these other people are like putting out these videos about comic books and stuff like that. Like, I'd been collecting at that point in time. Let's see, that was 2021. I'd been collecting for 9, 10 years at that point in time.
Okay.
I had gotten back into it at that point in time, like 9 or 10 years prior. And so I was like, I've got a lot of knowledge. I can talk about comic books like this. I can do this. And so I decided, I decided to start a YouTube channel, but it was also the fact that, like, prior to starting a YouTube channel, I wanted to start a podcast with two friends of mine,
Okay.
and it looked like it was gonna happen, and then one of the guys back like decided he couldn't do it, and so it kind of just shut the whole podcast down,
Gotcha.
and that's kind of what had like left me looking for something else, I guess. And so then I saw everybody in their YouTube stuff, and I was like, I could do that, Like it's not, it doesn't seem silly for me to talk to a camera about comic
Yeah.
books, but it does seem silly for me to get on a mic where nobody can
Right.
see anything and me talk about
Yeah.
comic book stuff.
Well, and being that comics is such a visual medium, like
Yeah.
it really makes sense to have the ability for people to see the things that you're talking about and have that other level of interaction with you.
Right. Yeah.
Was there a little bit of trepidation or uncomfortability when you first started shooting your videos?
Oh.
I know I was a little awkward when I when I first started doing it, and the
I look
sound of
back.
the sound of hearing one's voice and seeing seeing ourselves on there and everything can be a little bit of a barrier to entry.
I look back, I think around July of this past year, because that's my anniversary date for being on YouTube is in July. I looked back and I was watching some of those videos. It's like, oh my god, like how bad was, not that I'm freaking good now, like don't get me wrong, but like
But
I was like,
you can tell you're more comfortable now, I'm sure, in
right,
comparison. Yeah.
yes, and I feel more confident about the things that I'm saying and like my facts and stuff like that, because I feel
Yeah.
like that was one of my biggest things was like, what if I mess up? What if I say something like, what if it's not even that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just have a simple mistake. I just say something wrong. And it's like
Well, and you know
doing
how
that whole,
you know how nerds are. They're gonna
right. Well,
comic fans. They're gonna point it out if you mess up.
exactly. It's that, and like going by a number, you know what I mean? Because like I wanted to keep my real name close to the chest,
You have some
and
anonymity, right?
right,
Yeah.
and so because like I didn't like I'd had experiences on Facebook where like people had sit there and gone to my profile and
Yeah.
like come at me, come at my wife, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't play that kind of stuff. Like,
No, that's not cool.
you want to come at me, that's fine. Like, I
Yeah.
got no problem. I'm a man.
Start
I got no problem.
start pulling family into it. That's a whole other level.
Exactly, and so like that was what like that's one of the reasons for the number is that like that's my favorite number. That's my wife's favorite number. Like that number means a lot to us.
Right.
And so like I was just like, whatever, 50 Cent can do it, why can't I? So
exactly. Just avoid the getting shot 9 times part, and you'll be
right,
good.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it was a lack of being able to do the podcast that I wanted to do that drove me on top of the big boom of COVID channels that got me into it. So
yeah, and that was such a crazy period because again, going back to that, like the nostalgia, and everybody like was going out there and spending like crazy, and people were selling and able to sell like crazy. It was such a unique time, and now I think we're kind of getting back into that period where things are going down a little bit and presenting some challenges, but it's still cool. You got your people out there that are still doing well despite it, and people that have built themselves up within the community and have a good reputation, and because I see a lot of different people who do the selling and everything, and how you interact and how you treat people makes such a big difference when you're in a field like that. If you're selling comics and you're taking forever to ship stuff out and you're being impersonal and all of this, like you can't be surprised if you're not doing well and not making sales and all of that, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like for me, it's people want to have a good experience. Like, yes, they're buying a comic from you, but like they want to have a good experience with you as a seller.
Right.
They want their book to come in, and they want it to look like you cared when you shipped it out. Like that means a lot. You know what I mean? And then they want to know that you know what you're talking about when it comes to grading. Like those are the three big things for me. That's a big one.
That's a big one. Yeah. Yeah, the grading thing, that's such a hard thing because it's so subjective too.
It is,
and if the buyer has an idea of what name the grade is in their mind, it makes it challenging for the seller to appease them, I guess I would say. So like I was talking to do you know Cheddar Comics?
Oh, I've heard. Yes. He sells a lot on IG, doesn't he?
He's a great guy. Like you talk about like giving that personal interaction and having a really good reputation as a seller. That guy is amazing. And but I lost my train of thought. What was I saying before that? The personal interaction, all of these things, going above and beyond. I lost my thought on what I was going to say.
We're talking about grading.
Okay, grading. He underestimates his grade by a bit, so it exceeds the expectation. If he says something's like a 7, it's probably more like a 8.5 or something when the person gets it,
I try to get in that like grade to a half a grade area.
Yeah.
I used to, when I first started out selling books, I was more of a like very much conservative.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to build my name. I wanted to build that reputation of like, dude knows what he's talking about as far as grading. You're going to get a good deal, and you're going to get a good looking book. At least better than what you think is coming in the mail.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm misquoting. Like, I don't think he's a whole grade point different, but just as an example, like that principle or that concept of like underestimating it a little bit so people are happy when they get it. Like, oh, wow, this is way better than what I was expecting, I think that's smart.
I've noticed over time since I've been doing it, because I feel like I'm pretty positive I've been selling comics for longer than I've been on YouTube.
Yeah.
On eBay. And as over time, I've forced myself to be more comfortable and more confident in saying like, no, this is like at least this grade book.
Yeah.
But try to still be like in that grade to like more like a half a grade below what it probably would get at CGC. But like you'll get it and you'll be like, yo, this guy's right. It's it's pretty spot on what his grade.
How do you build your confidence in that? Was it because you've sent stuff into CGC and you kind of know, like, okay, this book looks like this, I sent it in and it got this grade? Does that kind of help you in that estimation? Like, obviously it's going to be one of those things where the more you practice it, the more you see, you get a better idea of where you're at with it.
Yeah. CGC and the Overstreet Price Guide grading book are that Overstreet Price Guide for comic books, that's my Bible. And just in sending books in, like now I've sent a bunch of like modern stuff in there.
Yeah.
So, but like, you know, you're always wanting that 9.8 and stuff like that. And being able to look at books, you know, and you're putting money on it at that point in time of like, I've cleaned this, I've pressed it, all this other jazz. Like, if I send this in, do I really think I'm going to get a 9.8? And like,
right.
Am I perfect? No. I've had books come back 9.4. I've had them come back 9.6. But if you go back and watch my videos on the most, I'm pretty good at like sending in and getting 9.8s. So
I have both the Overstreet one and the CGC one about grading.
Yeah.
That CGC one intimidates me, man. I get in there and I start reading. It's like there's so many variables and so much gray area. I'm like, holy cow! Like, how would you ever keep track of all of that?
I still haven't looked at the CGC one.
Yeah.
But because the Overstreet has done me so well, and because I don't know, the CGC one I'm sure has it, but like I said, I haven't seen it, so correct me if I'm wrong. But the Overstreet has pictures.
Yeah, there are pictures in the CGC one as well, but it's like there's so many little side tangents and it's so much detail and like it's just like, to me it was an overwhelming amount of information. So if I'm thinking about like assessing a book and it's like, okay, you got to look for these 100 different things could change the grade on it. It's like, oh man, you lost me.
Overstreet, they have a graph in there that like tells you like, you know, a 9.8 can have 2 flaws.
Right.
Now it depends on the moderation of those flaws. Are they tiny? Are they insignificant? Like, it depends on that kind of stuff. And it's like, it does a really good job of explaining, like...
And to be fair, like, I probably made it about halfway into the CGC one before I dipped out. So it may very well, if I would have stuck with it, it might have all that in there too, but I was like, you guys scared me. I don't know, this is too much.
That's funny. Yeah,
I'll get back to it though, but I think I'm gonna focus more on the Overstreet one because I started with the CGC one and I haven't really delved into the Overstreet one. But it's good to hear that it's served you well.
I love the Overstreet one. I think that's why I've not really cared enough to look at the CGC one, because
right.
The Overstreet has done me so well, has taught me so much. That, like, I used to go and take a book to that Overstreet one every single time. And now I've just gotten to where I've done it so much that I'm like, nah, this is probably in this grade range.
Right.
And you know, if I'm questioning it, then I'll take it in there and I'll compare it to some of the books they have for examples. But, like, there's just some telltale signs that, like... that let me know off the bat, like this is gonna be some kind of in a book like this is gonna be in this kind of grade, and I one of the tips that like I would give is that don't look at the binding first.
Okay.
Don't look at the spine ticks first. For me, what I do is I look at the corners. That's the first thing I look at, or at least force myself to try and do, because it's a hard habit, at least it was for me, to break. Of looking at that spine and the spine ticks first.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that.
Yep. But by the time you get done with the spine ticks and then you start looking at everything, it's like it just kind of seems whatever.
Yeah.
So I usually try to look at the binding last.
Okay.
So I try to look at the corners to see how sharp they are, because to me, like, sharp corners, like, that's a good indicator right there.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking for subscription creases. I'm looking for dog ears. I'm looking for that kind of stuff. Then any tape pulls on the surface, any dimples on the surface, and then I go to the binding.
That's a great pro tip. That's awesome. That's what I'm going to do. So. That's what I'm going to do. If it works for you, if it's good for Mr. 22, it's good for me. Well, brother, I know that it is later where you're at than it is where I'm at. I appreciate you getting on here with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I always take time here at the end of the show to give you opportunity to plug anything you'd like to plug. Make sure people know where your YouTube channel is. Make sure they know where to find you on social media. The spotlight is yours. Take it away, Mr. 22.
Well, thank you. Thank you. First and foremost, go check out the Comically Comics podcast. It's on YouTube at Comically Comics Podcast, but it's also on every single podcatcher. So if you're a podcast person, which I assume you are, you listen to this fantastic nerdy Mewzings podcast right here, then you can check us out as well, whatever podcast catcher you're on, more than likely. That's where we'll be at as well. Comically Comics Podcast. New episodes are on every Monday. Outside of that, me personally, you can find me on like Instagram at 22_comics. You can find me on eBay at 22_comics. You can also find me mainly on YouTube though, 22 Comics. That's where I do I have a live show on Mondays where I do the top 10 alternatives. I take the cover price top 10 list and I go through them, why they may be on the list, and we talk about the dollar amount. But then I also give an alternative to that book because I try to fight FOMO. So I give you a book that's like similar that I think you'll enjoy for way less money. And every other Thursday, I have a live called Collecting Uncensored, where I bring on a guest that collects, and we just kind of like two dudes sitting down, having a drink, talking about comic books, something quite like this. So if you enjoy this, I think you'll enjoy that show as well, on top of like any pre-recorded stuff that I do. So yeah, check me out. And I appreciate it, and thank you very much, James, for bringing me on, man. This is fantastic.
Man, my pleasure. I'd love to have you on again, man.
Absolutely, yeah. Let me know.
Very cool, and I'll make sure to throw all those links in the show notes for everybody. Mr. 22, hang out with me for a moment. I'm going to give my little spiel and hit the outro and tell everybody to make sure to check out the podcast. I always say, just in case we're showing off a bunch of cool stuff, you always want to make sure you check out the video version of the podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/@nerdymewzings. Mewzings is MEWZINGS. I see when it autofills the search that people are spelling it different, so I make sure I specify that. Just like Mr. 22, all major podcast platforms, you can check us out on there. Don't hesitate to give a rating, a like, a subscribe, a follow, a review, 5-star preferably. And as always, everyone, keep it nerdy.